Now I would like to ask Jasmine Perez, an MA from the School of Education 2012 and currently a doctoral student in our curriculum instruction program, to come forward and introduce our commencement speaker. Jasmine.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dean McDermott. It is my pleasure to be here today to introduce our commencement speaker, Mr. Paul Cuadros. Mr. Paul Cuadros is an award-winning author and journalist. He's a professor in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication, and his book, A Home on the Field, was selected in 2009 as the summer reading book here at Carolina. He has this distinct honor of being the only faculty member here at Carolina whose book has been selected as a summer reading book. His book was then converted into a docuseries by producer Jennifer Lopez in Nuvo TV in 2014. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Mr. Paul Cuadros, a good friend, ally. Please help me bring him to the stage.
I'll lower this a little bit. Thank you, Jasmine. You know, I was with Provost Jim Dean about a month ago at an event, and he saw Jasmine and me together laughing and doing what we normally do, which is cause trouble. And he did a double take, and he said, Mutton Jeff. And I turned to him and I said, no, more like Pinky in the Brain. In Spanish, that would be Pinky y el Cerebro. Anyway, thank you, Jasmine. Jasmine is like the big, very big little brother I never had. I want to thank Dean Bill McDermott and the school for selecting me to speak to the graduates today. This is such a great honor to be able to send these wonderful students out into the greater world with hopes and dreams of making things better and helping our kids. I want to thank the distinguished faculty assembled here. As a fellow faculty member, I share your private secret thoughts right now. It's almost over. I want to thank the students for making it to the end of the road here at our beloved Carolina. And I want to thank, of course, the people for making this all possible, the parents. Thanks, Mom and Dad. See, it wasn't so bad when your kid came to you and said they wanted to teach. And I want to thank my wife, Lita Hartman, who's been my biggest supporter throughout my career. I was taken aback a bit when Bill asked me to be the commencement speaker today. I am not a teacher. I am a journalist. What do I have to say about education? And Bill very wisely said to me, Paul, you're a coach, and coaching is teaching. And he was right. Coaching is teaching, and I have been coaching high school soccer for more than 14 years now. It's a long haul. And what I've learned about coaching is that a lot of it is psychology, some of it is social work, most of it is just caring. Teaching is all about heart. You cannot be a good educator without it. In Spanish, we say corazón. You must find your heart, and you must have the courage to share it with your students. And you must find a way to get them to share theirs. That isn't an easy thing to do, especially with teenagers. But if you can find a way to open them up, they can do amazing things. They can do what we adults have long forgotten how to do. They can believe. Now, I want to share with you a story that is all corazón. It's an education story, and it encompasses so many things facing education today in our schools. It's a story about change, about school culture, and it's a story about fairness. It's the story of Los Jets. Some of you may know it. It's a North by God, Carolina story, a tale told in Spanish with a southern accent, a corrido of pain and hope. It's vinegar pulled pork meets mole, all washed down with a jarritos, a Mexican soda. If you haven't tried one, do so. It's a story of dreamers and dreamers who become champions. I'll set the stage. It's 1998. The country was listening to My Heart Will Go On like it would never end. Americans were relearning the sacrifices of the greatest generation and Saving Private Ryan, and a certain president was wishing he had never taken up cigar smoking. I'm in Washington, D.C., doing my big city investigative reporter thing. I'm researching a chapter on worker safety issues for a book on Congress. I find that slaughterhouses across America have been actively recruiting workers from south of the border. And let's be straight about what's happened to states like North Carolina. The migration of Latinos to this region is not by accident, but a planned event designed and implemented by a multi-billion-dollar industry. Some have called the changes here an invasion, but really it has been an invitation by corporate America for cheap labor. This invitation was causing a silent migration that would transform the very nature of this country. There are two demographic trends today. One is the graying of America. Baby boomers, like most of you all out there and me, are aging out. And the browning of America. The country is becoming less white and more diverse. Today, 1 in 4 toddlers is Latina. America is going to change. I moved to Siler City to write about this phenomenon. I knew this was an important story, perhaps the most important in the country. I was interested in people, on how people would deal with the demographic change, and Siler City was changing. In 1990, it was only 1% Latino. By 1999, when I moved there, it was 30%. In the elementary schools, the change was even more dramatic. One of the first things I reported on was a school board meeting at Siler City Elementary that still shocks me to this day. The meeting was held to talk about what to do with all the little Latino kids that were enrolling in the school. The longtime residents, white and black, were hot about the rapid change that was happening in their school. They were upset about all the English language learners in their kids' classrooms. They were afraid their children were no longer getting a quality education. They were pulling their kids out of the school in droves. Teachers were also fleeing the school because test scores were dropping. All these issues boiled over that ugly night. One woman in particular captured the feelings of many of the parents, the white parents, who stood up when she stood up and said, maybe they need their own school until they learn English. This is our school. There were also a lot of courageous parents that night who called for other parents to keep their kids in Siler City Elementary. They pleaded for teachers to stay. Do I need to tell you that's when the elementary charter school opened up down the road? When I think about what's happening with charter schools today, I hear echoes from that school board meeting. I hear the same fear. I was coaching a small team of Latino boys in a local league who had, for the past 2 years, been petitioning the Jordan Matthews High School administration to form a varsity soccer program. This was not my idea. This was the boys' idea. They wanted to play for their school. They wanted to play for their community. They wanted to wear the colors of the Jets. And yet each time they were denied. One day in your life, you will find yourself at the crossroads. And you will find you will need to decide where you stand. And so I did something that most journalists do not do. I got involved. I didn't think it would be such a hard thing to do. I didn't understand how political school culture could be. And if you haven't learned that lesson yet, be prepared to deal with it, a lot of it. At that time, Latino students at JM were completely lost. No one cared about them. They were strangers in their own school. Like in many small town high schools, you can walk, or at least that time, you can walk the halls of JM, and you will see the giant pictures of their state champions. You can do that here in this stadium, hung on the wall. There were faces of tennis players and basketball players, and not a single player on that wall looked like these kids. Latino children were invisible. Forming the program was never a question of equipment or the logistics of starting it. It was about culture and identity and fear. The football coaches were afraid that the increasing number of Latino students might loosen their control over the school. So the answer to creating a team was always going to be no. It's funny how much power athletics has over a school. But I was well versed in politics, and I knew what to do. In a short time, a school was greenlit. Word of a soccer program spread through the community. Kids came to me and asked me if it was true. ¿Es cierto, Cuadros? Many had been dreaming and hoping for this for a long time. And the team we put together was a real family. I've coached 6 sons from just one family alone. And so I got involved in a deep and personal way, and I met some wonderful teachers and educators. What better example of cultural responsive teaching than that? We were a success from the start, and I've seen a lot as the coach of Los Jets. I've seen how one brother comes to one day to practice while the other brother stays home because they were sharing soccer shoes. I've seen kids get up at 4 in the morning, go to work before school starts, go to school, do well, and then come to practice to run drills with bloodshot eyes. I've seen kids drop out and quit the team to work at the chicken plant or because they got into trouble with the law. I have visited every trailer park in town, and I've seen some kids who had excellent grades and never make it to college because they had no papers. The boys and I have been through a lot together as well. We've been threatened by other parents, by fans, by other coaches. We've been told to go back to Mexico, told that we need green cards and not yellow cards. That was a good one. Told to get off their football field, told to speak English only. We've been called heathens, dirty Mexicans, you name it. We've had rocks thrown at our bus. Despite this negativity, we've also had our supporters, teachers, administrators, and community members who had our backs and fought alongside us to create the program and push for unity within our school. We've been through a lot. I've been through a lot, and I can't deny it hasn't affected me. But through it all, I have sought to find the common ground, to find friends even among my opposition, and to be open to change. I have learned that you can't have change without conflict. And so conflict is not a bad thing. It can be good as long as you can forgive and move on. And together we created a tradition of winning and being winners in more ways than just on the field. We have always tried to be the bigger men. One of the biggest men I've had the pleasure to coach was a kid named Octavio Hernandez Guerrero. Guerrero means warrior in Spanish. Tavo came to the country at 11 years old, crossing the border by himself, walking the desert for 5 days and nights with smugglers, knowing that he might die at any moment. The reason? Just wanted to be reunited with his dad. A gifted student, he won every academic award in school. He pushed himself to learn English quickly, and he pushed himself to play brilliantly. The night before our state championship game in 2004, we had a final practice on the football field under the lights. And Tavo and I worked through the night one-on-one on long shots on goal. When we were done, I watched him slip into the darkness, and I worried what would become of him. On the field, he was the best. The field was level for everyone. But off the field, his future would be very different. He was undocumented. When Tavo scored the game-winning goal the next day in our state championship, it wasn't a surprise to me. He was a warrior, he was a winner. He is the first Latino to be designated as MVP of any sport in the state. My book, A Home on the Field, tells the story of the lives of these boys in Siler City. It's a story of integration, but integration on your own terms, finding agency and seeking a way to win success with your own principles. And it's about creating level fields for everyone to do their best. And while many of these boys were generation illegal, today the boys on the team are becoming first-generation college-goers, like many of you here today. The championship and Los Jets have transformed JM. Today the school is some 60% Latino. Today more kids try out for soccer than football. Today JM graduates more Head Cane scholars. Today Siler City is 50% Latino, and we still win championships. And Siler City Elementary, it has the leading dual language immersion program in the state, and white parents are fleeing into it. That's the power of education, not giving up and solving the problem. And that is the main lesson I leave you all as you enter into the world of education today. You must be determined to do what is right and to keep doing it. Public education is at a crossroads. Today, the majority of our students in our public schools are no longer white. By the year 2023, almost 30% will be Latino. Meanwhile, the majority of our teachers will remain white. This is your generation's big issue. In whatever capacity you work in education, teaching, researching, administrating, educating a diverse America will be your greatest work. And so take the lessons I have learned with Los Jets to heart. Keep an open mind throughout your career in working with a diverse community. Find ways to bridge the cultural gap. Learn to kick a soccer ball. Travel to a kid's country of origin and get to know the people. Hang out with the community. For administrators, there is more than one way to have a diverse school, even while your faculty remains mostly white. Look to your coaches to bring diversity. Be receptive to the community to come into your school. For Latinos, we communicate through family members. Use family to help your school. And remember, the people that will teach you the most will be your kids. If there's one lesson I've learned, it is that the fight for fair play is never over. There is no final victory. Changing the culture of a school, a community, a school system is very hard. It needs constant and consistent fighting. I call it la lucha, the struggle. The most trying times I've had with the team at JM occurred years after the championship. I want to leave you with a final thought, and that is that this job of teaching is the only job that you will love that loves you back. Take that to heart. America is changing. America will change. Nothing can stop that now. Just remember La Lucha and to keep fighting to make the fields even for all our kids. I want to say congratulations to you all. You deserve that. Go out in the world and do great things. Thank you very much.